And we're both sitting in both of our hammocks, and you can hear the coyotes all night surrounding you and all that fun stuff. And these two elk are just hollering next to us. It was like an alarm clock. And my buddy's like, we gotta go, we gotta go, we gotta go. So I'm like, shoot. So I get the camera ready, all that. And as we're getting ready, we can hear this crunching.
Hey everybody, welcome back to Take on the Lake with Lake Expo. I'm Nathan Bechtold. Thanks so much for joining us. Today we have, I'm going to call today our animal lovers episode. All right, if you love animals, particularly hunting them and eating them and displaying the beautiful aspects of them that God happened to place on certain animals, like you might see if you're watching the video here, then this episode is for you. This is definitely going to be like our hunting focused episode because I've got Brady Ford here in the studio. Brady actually is the managing broker for the Matt Ford real estate team here at the lake. His dad is Matt Ford, same name there if you hadn't figured that one out. And so Brady does that, and he is also a hunting dude. He has done some hunting guiding. He loves hunting. I think he helped somebody recently set up a deer stand on my property, actually, with my permission. It was fine.
Of course,
yes.
always.
But so we're going to just talk hunting, like all things hunting. I don't even know where this is going to go. But Brady, thanks for coming on.
Thanks for having me, Nathan.
Yeah.
I'm excited for this. We'll see where this conversation goes.
We shall see. You're a native lake guy, right?
I am. Yep,
Born and raised.
Lake of the Ozarks. And
Where'd you graduate from? Camdenton?
So I graduated from Camdenton. I went to Osage for a little bit, so ventured that way and graduated out of Camdenton.
Okay.
Played some sports there. Went to college down in Springfield and came back quickly.
All right.
It's a hard place to stay away from.
No kidding. Okay, so how old are you?
I'm 22.
22.
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. All right. That is less than half my age, so I'm still putting myself in like your young guy category. We're just a couple of young guys.
Young dudes.
Yeah, young guys just talking here. When did you first hunt? What's your first memory of going hunting? And was it at the lake or where? Tell me a little about that.
So it was at the lake. Just like any good old country boy, my grandpa took me out deer hunting. Fell in love with deer hunting, but not so quickly. It was a rough start, just really finding out what hunting was and the true meaning behind hunting and respecting the animals and all that great stuff. And then I fell in love with turkey hunting. That was my big thing, big Ozark thing around here is turkey hunting, just the chase after them. Hunted throughout high school, of course, sports hindered that a little bit, and then really fell in love with it in college. I went down to Springfield, but it was almost every weekend in the fall I was back sitting in the tree stand.
And that's on, where would you say where that was? On family land or where was it?
Yeah, mostly family land where I started off, and that's just in Lynn Creek here in between Camdenton and Osage.
Nice.
So that's where it started off, and quickly after college is when it really boomed for me on finding that passion behind hunting.
Okay. I feel like most of us, well, you never know, but most of us that have hunted have some like childhood moments that stand out for one reason or another. Of course, people now, it's that time of year right now, so the November youth season is behind us already, so dads have been proudly posting pictures of their 8-year-old we're in Lake of the Ozarks, so it's usually with a spike. Something it's not like this massive, we're in Iowa here,
yeah.
All right? But that whole thing is happening, and those kids will remember those moments. Always.
They will.
Always. So there is something about, especially as a kid, I think those hunting moments that are anchoring, even if they were maybe not the pinnacle of your hunting career. I have a friend who I remember in high school. I grew up in South Texas and some good deer hunting down there. And his dad was like an exotic hunter. He shot all sorts of various things around the world. And I remember this moment, I think we were 16, 17, and they were out hunting, and his dad saw the most amazing buck you'd ever seen stride out into the thing, and it was my buddy was supposed to be the one who was hunting that day, and his dad takes the gun from him and goes, "You've got your whole life to see another deer like this. I've already lived half mine. I'm taking this one." I don't know if that was a good move or not, but I can understand it. You'll be all right. You can shoot anything. I gotta take this one, man. It was an awesome buck too. So yeah, childhood hunting memories are core and impressionable, but so you got into it, especially college and post-college.
Yeah.
And you worked for a hunting guide service for a little bit, right?
Yeah, so my buddy, it's a weird story. After college, I managed a pre-licensing company for real estate here at the lake, and I met this buddy through it, and he had this strong Georgia accent, and we were talking on the phone when he first was signing up for the class. And I could just tell this old boy has some stories, or does something that he's not telling me right off the bat. So he came the first day of class, and I was teaching the class, and I pulled him to the side. He pulled up in this big old truck, and it had just hunting stuff all over, stickers and all that stuff. I pulled him to the side. I'm like, man, what do you do for a living? Like, who are you? I know everyone at the lake, or a lot of people at the lake, and I don't know you, and you don't sound like you're from the lake. And he's like, man, I take people hunting for a living. I was like, whoa. People can do that? I was 19, 20 years old. I didn't know you could do that for a living. He's like, yeah, man, we travel the world and I take people hunting. Yeah. And so we got to talking, and that's how I got into the outfitting world of things right after college.
So he was doing that where? You said he had a Georgia accent, but he's not in Georgia. He was here, but he came here from Georgia?
Yeah, he came here from Georgia, just like a lot of people that love Lake of the Ozarks. He was doing some filming for some local real estate teams and stuff like that. And his past was filming for like big hunting people, just guiding and stuff. So they were all over the world. I quickly found his Instagram, saw with moose and elk and all that fun stuff. And that really is what hooked me there. And then we decided to go on a black bear hunt soon after that. And from there, got onto the outfitting world and the guiding world, and it snowballed from there.
Okay. So how long ago was that?
That was 2 years ago.
Okay.
Yeah,
so you did that for a little bit. You're not actively doing that right now.
No, I did it heavily last year, just on the weekends when I wasn't working, because like you mentioned, I managed a real estate company. But it's just one of those things, you just get out there and refresh. But we all need those crazy stories. And man, I was a Lake of the Ozarks boy. When he first said black bears, I was like, what? No one around here just loves to think of black bears. They tremble at that thought. And that's what I was. We were bow hunting black bears at 9 yards, 8 yards.
Wow.
So that was definitely an experience. That was in Idaho.
Okay. Because you could start to do that here now.
Yeah, exactly.
That's a real thing here.
Yeah, that was off the
Not really much at the lake. There's a few around here, more like south towards Arkansas. That's where
and it's so funny when someone sees a black bear around here. It's all over lake area happenings and stuff like that. Beware down there. It's just another day. But, yeah, that was off the Lewis and Clark Trail, the Selway to the Wilderness, where you pulled into camp, and I remember just vividly seeing the first sign out there, because we're driving out there. He looks at me, he goes, "Hey man, just turn off your phone." I'm like, this is an 11-day hunt, and you're telling me to turn off my phone? He's like, it won't matter. There's no service out there. Nice. And the first sign I saw pulling in was nearest gas station is 90 miles away. I'm like, 90? Where are we, dude? And that was an experience for sure.
That's good stuff. That's remote.
Yeah, that was remote. That was.
So what are some things that you've guided when you've done some hunting guiding or been guided? What are some things that you have harvested? They like to use that word.
Yes. So things I've personally harvested: antelope, black bear, essentially. We went over to New Zealand this year, got a red stag and a South Pacific mountain goat.
Are you bow hunting with all that or some of that or what?
That stuff, since it was more on the expensive side of things, I just took my gun. I was like, I'm going to make sure I get this killed, which I quickly found out I'm a lot better shot with my bow. I'm an avid bow hunter rather than a gun hunter. But yeah, that was, and then I've guided and filmed. A lot of times I was filming too. Elk, antelope, I did that. Black bear, of course, whitetail turkey, and all the fun stuff like that.
Yeah. So filming it. So what's that?
That is exhausting. Holy smokes. We film each other kill these animals or harvest these animals. And man, I just remember we went to New Mexico last year. It's just one of those, like, hey, we're just going to go west and see what we can hunt. We stopped in Lyman, Colorado, and both tagged antelope. That was incredible.
With a bow?
Yeah, with a bow. And that was
How do you do that? What's that? Okay, so tell me what that's. You don't have to tell an hour-long story, but like...
Trial and error. If you're stalking these things, you're just driving around thousands of acres of windmill farms, just desert. When you think of Colorado, think of opposite, because this was eastern Colorado. There's nothing but dust,
I've been
storms. It's not a very pretty place to be, but it's all flat. And these antelope, they run 60 miles an hour. Man, it was a funny joke that we tell each other. They're like the crackheads of the wilderness, is what we say. You'll be stalking them, and there's no way they see you. And all of a sudden they'll pop up their head. And I remember I was filming my buddy, and he popped up his head and started running. He started running in circles around us. And I'm just sitting there with the camera, just going in circles. We probably stalked 20 antelope just to get one with a bow, and we actually both tagged out.
How do you even get that close? I mean, there's no trees out there or anything.
Nothing.
What are you doing? You like army crawling through the grass?
So it was so specific that we took our shoes off and we would walk because they could hear us crunching on our boots. So we took our shoes off, just socks, and crawled and walked. And you're lucky if you get close. I actually harvested mine at 75 yards with my bow. So you're not getting too close to them.
And it's a heck of a shot.
Heck of a shot. And they're so quick that they can beat your arrow if they see you.
Oh.
So it would make a man go crazy for sure.
So how many days did you spend from the time you decided we're going to get one until you got one?
That one was a crazy one. We left a Monday night at 11 o'clock and got there at 4 in the morning. And we just slept in our cars. And by 11 o'clock that morning, I harvested mine. So it was one of those quick. But then it was a 3-day hunt, and my buddy still had to tag out. And that took all last minute shot of those 3 days to finally tag one. So that was incredible. And from there, we hopped over to Colorado, went through Colorado to New Mexico, and hunted an area there just north of Albuquerque. Okay. Completely different. You're at 13,000 feet in elevation. I was terrified for that one because the cameraman, you don't want to miss the shot. If there's a shot happen, you do not want to be the guy to miss the shot, not hit record or anything like that. I trained because we hiked, I think it was like 10, 15 miles a day, up the mountain, down the mountain, around the mountain.
Awesome.
And we were hunting it's always a joke.
Do you have a guide on this?
No, it was just us.
It's just you.
Just us.
And you just show up are you hunting public land? Is that what
it is?
And then you just have to get a tag as an out of state tag or something like that. And
yep, exactly. So that one
I've never done that at all, so I don't know anything about that.
And that was all new for me too, because again, I was just a Missouri boy hunting whitetail out of a tree stand, and that one wasn't allocated tag, so we just bought it from a buddy. It's how it works. Okay. And man, it is public land. Like, you show up and you gotta go 20 miles up the mountain just to get away from people, because everyone wants to elk hunt, of course, around there. But we had a 4-wheel drive Equinox that we took all the way up that mountain, hunted out. We actually had the antelope heads on the top of the mountain, on the top of our Equinox, just strapped down, and went across the border and tried to get one. There's a lot of great stories with that, but man, it was a lot of hiking. And of course we hike in packs, so we'd go into the mountain for 3 days. So you take dry food, a jet boil to warm up everything, boil everything. You live in, and that's when I found out my hatred for hammocks. I used to love hammocks. It's a great date idea and stuff, but not when you're up in the mountains, just you and another dude. We got really cold. It was 70 degrees during the day, 35 at night.
Oh yeah, sleeping in 35 that's real.
Oh, it's real, man. And it hurts. It was one of those.
Your face just does not get warm at 35. Like,
nothing gets warm.
You can be bundled, but it's hard to keep anything warm. But I feel like, as I've been in, like, all right, the sleeping bag or whatever else is like pretty insulated, but my face is just frozen.
Frozen. It's miserable. It's when you gotta contemplate cuddling each other because it's that cold. We didn't cross that line.
Okay, good clarification there.
Yeah.
So what, you were hunting antelope there too?
That was elk.
Elk there.
There.
Okay,
Yep.
okay. And you got one. You didn't.
The good old story. So that was a 14-day hunt that I was just going to be there for 4 or 5 days of that 14-day hunt. And we got picky, man. It was our second night. We woke up, and I had my contacts out because I had bad allergies over there out in New Mexico. And we were sitting in the hammock, and our goal was to sleep with the elk. So wherever the elk were, we were going to get as close as we could, hammock for the night, sleep, wake up, and they'd be right there.
Nice.
And that happened. And of course, I'm new. This is the first time I've ever even heard an elk bugle. And we're both sitting in both of our hammocks, and it's early. I don't know what time, just right as the sun comes up. And you can hear the coyotes all night surrounding you and all that fun stuff. And these two elk are just hollering next to us. It was like an alarm clock. And I can't see. I roll over, fall out of the hammock, get my contacts in, and my buddy's like, we gotta go. So I'm like, shoot. So I get the camera ready, all that. And as we're getting ready, we can hear the crunching. So we walk about 10 yards, and sure enough, those two are walking right up to us. Crazy. Both 5x5s, just beautiful elk. I'm sitting there, I'm just shaking. I'm like, this is the first wild elk I've seen. And we decided not to pull the trigger on it. It was at probably 20 yards where my buddy got a monster the year before. So he was being picky with it. He was looking for something better. And Didn't find it, man. Just, again, trial and error with that
Yeah.
one. And then the worst part about public land, you'll be bugling, and if another guy is really good at bugling, you won't know if you're talking to another human being. So there was one time we stalked for 2 hours on this thing that just, it was almost too good to be true. And before we get to him, we're like, I look over, I'm like, dude, I think that's a human. And sure enough, we, after a 2 hour stalk, at prime time, it was just another dude with a bugle just going at it.
Yeah, you were calling for each other there.
Yeah, you just got to sit back and laugh after that.
Nice. So, Missouri hunting. You bow hunt
Yes.
for deer and turkey, and I don't know, anything else in Missouri that you hunt? Actually, you can hunt. I was going through the MDCs, like, where they're mow hunting. I was just scrolling through, and I was like, my gosh, there's a lot of seasons in Missouri, like badger season, like, I don't know how many badgers around here, but all kinds of seasons. It's so funny. I forget, there's one critter. Oh, I think it was groundhog season. I'm like, dude, it's groundhog season if I see a groundhog in my garden.
Exactly.
And actually, it literally is, because if you look at it, it's like groundhog season is from the time they emerge from the ground to the time they go back into winter hibernation. It's groundhog season in Missouri. It's also groundhog season for me at all times when I'm driving, because I have this thing. I have a war with groundhogs at our place because they just decimate like my garden.
Yeah, I can feel the emotions.
Yeah, I don't like them, and I like when I see one, I just kind of do the little finger gun as I'm driving every time. So if you see me doing that ever when you're out and about driving, that's because I saw a groundhog.
Yeah, I
get
get
that. I'm mad at you as a driver. Yeah, I just saw a groundhog. I'm just like venting a little bit. But yeah, it's funny how many things actually there are to hunt. And then there's the bird hunting side of it. I don't do that at all. Have you done any of that?
I've dabbled in it a little bit. I've filmed for it. I've guided for it. I'm knowledgeable on it, but I've never really truly hunted myself.
Okay.
That's one of those, it seems like those expensive, all my buddies tell me, like, don't get into it unless you want to spend a lot of money. And I'm like, I'm just going to stick. But yeah, there's a lot, and there's a lot more coming to Missouri. Mountain lions, bear, and a lot of crazy stuff. And that's a whole nother topic, but a very interesting topic to get into, especially.
Yeah. The bear stuff, you haven't been on a bear hunt in Missouri yet, have you?
Not in Missouri, so I haven't been fortunate enough to draw a tag because it's like a lottery.
Do you enter into it?
I do.
Okay.
And one of my buddies up north actually got one of the tags. I was jealous, but he asked me, he's like, hey, you want to go bear hunt? Like, you guide bear hunts, can you guide here? I'm like, it's a little bit different here, but
I bet.
Yeah, there's definitely a lot more bears seems migrating up here.
Yeah.
It's funny too, just Missourians just don't have much knowledge on bears in general.
Yeah, why would we?
Yeah, well, exactly. Why would we?
Yeah. Lake Expo, like literally every time anybody has a video or photo of a black bear, like just existing in the lake area, I'm like, that's going to be our biggest story for the week or the month or whatever. Yeah, it's hilarious. People just love to go nuts for bears. There was one I had a couple of years ago, and there was a bear. He was like playing in traffic in Camdenton. Do you remember this guy?
Do,
yeah, and he was like, about got nailed by a semi truck or something coming through the square. So it was crazy.
Yeah, right through the square.
Yeah.
It's insane to see.
They're here.
They're here.
They're around. And then we have elk in Missouri now. People are doing it's even less than bear, I think, in terms of how many tags they do right now. Not a lot. But that was more intentional, I think, by the Conservation Department. They brought elk into Missouri from the Arkansas, I think, herd or something like that. They say that historically there were elk in Missouri. Yeah. I guess that's true.
That's what I've heard from multiple sources. But yeah, it's crazy the variety. We're in the Midwest, being in the middle of everything. You start seeing some crazy stuff for sure.
You do. I love hunting. The majority of the deer that I have killed in the past couple of years have been with my vehicles, unfortunately. Usually during hunting season, which of course, because they're going crazy during hunting season, all the deer are. Yeah, last year we literally hit 2 deer, like one for each van. We have 5 kids, so we have a minivan and like a large Nissan 12-passenger van. The minivan was totaled because my wife was barreling down Highway 54 at like normal speed, and Buck just jumps out of nowhere, like out of the median. She was like, I couldn't do anything. It was like I'm driving and then I see it and then it's over. And so amazingly, nobody was hurt. Here's the crazy thing about that one. I went out there and helped, drove, it was like, they were like east of Eldon on 54. And so I went and kind of made a tow truck, got it, all this stuff. And everything's taken care of, and we get in our other van, our big van that had not yet hit its deer for the winter. And my kids are like, Dad, can we go find the deer? I'm like, yeah, we probably do that. it's fine. So we're walking along, and it's just undeveloped along 54 there. It's just big, huge, grassy shoulder and land and stuff. So we kind of walk along, and we find it. And it had been like maybe an hour since she hit it at that point. And I kid you not, the back straps were gone.
If that's not Missouri for you,
dude,
I don't know what it is.
Epic. I was like, good on whoever took those, because I wasn't going to. I bet somebody saw her hit it, and they were like, U-turn, and they like took the next and went back. Because my wife was like, how could you do that? I'm like, honey, it wouldn't take 2 minutes. You bust out the knife, boom, throw it in a sack, and you gone. That's
gold.
It. That's gold. That's somebody got some steaks out of that deal, and I got a totaled vehicle. So they won. But anyways, hilarious. And I thought, yeah, dude, that's Missouri. That's some good old Miller County business right there.
It is for you.
Yeah. So anyways, yeah, and then we had another one we hit one with the big van. Thankfully that van is like a tank, and so the bumper like got pushed a little and the deer got obliterated. So that's all right. But that actually is one of the things, that's one of my pet issue. I think that we just have a ridiculous white-tailed deer population in Missouri. And it's obviously been growing. So yeah, when my dad grew up here in the 50s, 60s, 70s, he graduated from school at the Osage, and he was like, you didn't see deer that much around here. His dad, my grandpa, would go out hunting on the family land that we've had forever. It's a couple hundred acres at that point. It's smaller than that now, but I think he would take like a shotgun with a slug or something and just traipse through the woods, and I don't think almost ever had any luck at all. But now I live on D Road in Miller County. I can't drive down that road without almost hitting a deer this time of year. It is just crazy how many deer there are. I should have looked this up before, but the Highway Patrol had a stat that we just published recently. In fact, I might pull it up in a minute, on how many deer collisions there were in over the past 12 months or whatever. And it's an astonishing number.
Yeah.
And of those, there's also not a non-zero number of people that were killed in deer-related collisions in Missouri. So I look at that and I just want to be a realist and go, to me, that means we might have a really overly large deer population in Missouri. I don't know, call me crazy. They do managed deer hunts. They were just, this weekend as we're recording, this coming weekend, they're doing Hahatonka. They're shutting down Hahatonka, right? Trying to thin the herd. I think, don't they do some out at Four Seasons, like on Horseshoe Bend? Don't they do managed hunts and stuff? I don't know. What do you think? Give me your thoughts on the deer population in Missouri. You think it's good? You think it's healthy? You think we got too much? You think they're too small? I don't know. Whatever. You've thought about it, I'm sure. Yeah. So what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, and it's a difficult situation too, because you can reflect on different states as well. When I was in Idaho, the government, the state of Idaho, was paying out what we call bounty hunters there. They would drive around on snow skis or snowmobiles, and they would shoot wolves. And I sat down and I asked him why. What's the deal here? Tell me everything. He said Montana dropped wolves into whatever, and they have obviously came over from Idaho, from Montana to Idaho, and Idaho doesn't want them. And so they're paying.
They don't want the wolves.
They don't want the wolves. So each wolf you killed, they pay you $3,000 per wolf. And so
just any old fella sign up to be a bounty hunter?
Yeah.
And I think they do that with snakes in Florida. Actually. Yeah. I think it's the ball pythons, actually. Yep. Some kind of python that is not native, and it's like snake roundup season or whatever. It's just kill them all.
And coming back to Missouri and why I brought it up. There's just so much misinformation about animal populations when it comes to really any state. And I do believe there's a lot of science to back it up of what a good deer herd is. And there's a lot of people that get paid to come out and bring their thermal drones and get a good deer population of a farm. But I do think it's probably county by county. But as you mentioned, there's a lot of deer, and there's unfortunately, a lot of regulations on what can be killed deer population wise. And that probably needs to be lifted, because we are seeing an immense amount of them. Yeah.
What was the natural predator of the white-tailed deer in Missouri when Missouri was not it's not a heavily populated state? Whenever people weren't filling Missouri, what was the natural predator of white-tailed deer? Mountain lions, right? Yeah. And I don't know if wolves, whether we ever have wolves in Missouri, I don't know. Mountain lions, for the most part. I don't know, maybe a bobcat would kill a baby or something like that, right? But generally mountain lions. I think that was probably the main predator. And then, I don't know, the Indians who were here before, they were shooting them whenever. So now what's the predator for deer?
It's tough.
Us.
Yeah.
That's it.
Just
Every time there's a mountain lion spotted in Missouri, it's everybody loses. Like, you want to talk about black bear, people going crazy. Mountain lions, people go extra crazy.
Yeah.
Which, understandably, because they're a little scarier, actually. But I think predators control those populations. Like, this is biology. Like, everybody knows this, or zoology, or whatever you want to call it. And the predator is gone. That was the historic predator for that thing. And so now we're the predator. We kill a lot of them with our cars. and we don't mean to. Yeah, our minivans. And we kill more of them with bows and rifles and stuff. But people are the predators for deer in Missouri. And people are the predators for, I guess, most animals in Missouri, actually, hunting type animals, turkeys too, for that matter. But I don't hear anybody really complaining much about like turkey overpopulation in Missouri. You hit a turkey with your car, and it might actually dent it pretty good. There's some pretty big turkeys, but it's not catastrophic. Where I pulled it up. In 2024, this is from the Missouri State Highway Patrol. In 2024, Missouri recorded nearly 3,000 deer-related crashes. It's got to be more than that, by the way, because I had 2 in my own personal household. But whatever, that's like highway patrol numbers. So, people that report them actually and stuff. I'm sure there are plenty where it's like, you hit one and you're like, dang it, and you just move on because it didn't damage it that badly or whatever. Anyways, Missouri recorded nearly 3,000 deer-related crashes in 2024, an average of 1 every 3 hours. I don't know how anyways, I didn't check their math on that, but resulting in 4 deaths and 420 injuries statewide. That was from a Highway Patrol press release. So 4 people died and 420 people were injured, according to the Highway Patrol, directly as a result of deer in the road. You're never going to completely solve that because deer lose their minds because they're thinking about one thing in particular this time of year. But I bet you didn't have that many when there weren't as many deer in them. And I don't want to complain about it being a little easier to have a successful hunt, because it's nice whenever you have actual deer population, but I don't know. I'm not saying I exactly have the answer. Here's as close as I can get to an answer.
Yeah.
A longer deer season would be nice.
Less regulated.
And so you're an archer. I'm gonna caveat that. I'm a rifle hunter because I've never really got into archery, and I wanted to go out and take deer, and I shoot a Ruger 7 mag, and that's way overkill for a deer, but that's what I have, and so that's what I'm doing. I could also go elk hunting or whatever with it. But I want to just go out and take deer with my rifle, and I don't really have a particularly long window with which to do that. But you were going to mention regulations over it too.
Yeah, and you've got to mention too, you're at a window when the heat, the rut, is starting to be at the end of the bell curve there. I really like youth season's at a good time, but really right now is really when you're going to start seeing your heavy rut hit. And a lot of your kills are, of course, with the rifle and the rifle season here in Missouri, where they do it the same with turkey. I really feel I'm a real avid turkey hunter. I feel like it's definitely seems like it's getting later and later in the season where those turkeys aren't as wound up as what they would be, and it makes it a lot more difficult.
And for people that aren't big-time hunters, the reason we're explaining it this way is because during the rut, which is the breeding season, so hunting seasons are built around population management, right? That's the whole concept of a hunting season, because once upon a time, if you were hungry, you just went out and shot yourself a little something, right? Like back in the day.
Yeah.
Now, admittedly, when you get a higher human population density in a place, that really can result in over-harvesting, truly, if like people aren't observing any hunting seasons at all, and then you can actually have population problems. Like, absolutely, that's the case. But once upon a time, my point is, there weren't really seasons enforced. It was just you went and you shot what you needed to eat. Now there are seasons, and they do that with particular goals in mind of population management. The Missouri Department of Conservation and I'm forgetting the name of the board, but the conservation board in Missouri that actually sets the seasons and stuff. It's people that I think the governor appoints to a board. And so they usually, hunting seasons, at least for deer and turkey, are created around the mating season. Part of that, there's 2 reasons, and one for that. One is because during mating season is the furthest removed from when mamas are raising their babies, because you don't want a season whenever mamas have like just hatched out their baby turkeys, or a mama deer just had her fawn, and if you shoot a mom, now you just killed like a bunch of turkeys because you killed the mom, or a bunch of 1 or 2 fawns because their mom, you shot it. Understandably, seasons are crafted partly to protect the young ones that are born so they can grow up to be old enough to where they're fine by the time hunting season comes around. The other piece of that is hunting season is usually crafted around breeding time because they're super active during that time. You notice that in the spring and summer, you don't nearly see as many deer. You just don't. They're still there, but they're sticking to the woods a little more. They're not moving nearly as much as they are in November when the bucks are, actually literally the phrase is chasing tail, right?
Yeah,
that's where
right.
the phrase comes from. Like
Exactly.
The white tail is up and the bucks are chasing that white tail.
Uh-huh.
So they're out and they cover, I think I've read certain things about the amount of distance that they cover chasing tail through the woods and over hill and dale and over state highways is remarkable. And that's why it's a good time to hunt.
Yeah.
Is because they're moving a lot. So wherever it is that you're planted, waiting, you're more likely to see them when they're moving a ton versus when they're not moving that much.
Yep.
So did I sum up hunting season?
No, yeah, that was exactly right.
Okay.
Yeah. And what that board is looking at is mating season. They're looking at the population, so they say, and stuff like that. But you're really, a hot topic recently has been CWD and other chronic waste diseases that they say is correlated to the population and stuff like that. So
yeah, they say higher population density, deer congregating together results in chronic wasting disease more likely being spread because they spread it to each other. I'm not an expert on how the spread happens, but apparently like a living one that has it, I think it's through like saliva and stuff. So and this is why, so they regulate like communal feed and stuff.
Yep.
So conservation has all these rules about where you can put out feed, about how long you can have feed out before you hunt over. You have to remove any feed areas before you hunt over it. I want to say this year, maybe they even just said you can't feed at all. I'm not remembering right now. In terms of like mineral licks that people put out, they have rules about hunting over those. All these rules, ostensibly at least, so that deer don't congregate and spread chronic wasting disease.
Yeah.
I'm always kind of like, it's mating season. They're congregating. They congregate very specifically for a very particular purpose. The bucks congregate to fight each other over the does, and then the bucks pair off, or not pair off, one buck in particular, the winner, whatever, I'm claiming all these if I can. So they're congregating, so that always just seems a goofy thing to me. I get if it's like you had 18 deer around one feeding spot, that's different than a couple deer together, but at least that's the reason.
Yeah,
right?
and it reminds me, back in high school, I was a COVID year guy, and that was my senior year of high school football, and we would all, of course, tackle each other when we were playing flag football, and then we had to sit, but then when we got to the sideline, we had to stay 6 feet away from each other.
Hilarious.
But it's like the correlation.
Yeah, it is like that.
And one thing I've really just learned with nature, I've sat hours and hours in tree stands and stuff like that, is nature's going to run its course. God put these animals on this earth for a reason, and nature runs its course. If diseases have to happen, then they do, and it's for a reason. But the more human interference, probably the worse when it comes to regulating populations, which is why with Colorado stopping and putting a halt to mountain lion season and stuff like that, we will start seeing more mountain lions because we're seeing a rising population in deer, and mountain lions, when they're overpopulated in an area, they're going to migrate.
Like territorial, where they kind of spread out.
Yeah, and mountain lions are one of those animals too that they travel way more than what people realize. They can travel. There's cool studies to see how far they do travel, and I do believe we're going to start seeing more mountain lions and predators like that simply because of those regulations being put in.
Do you think the mountain lions know when it's hunting season and when it's not? Like for deer? I think they abide by that.
I don't know. I don't really pick mountain lions to be one of those law-abiding animals.
Yeah, not really. Me either. Yeah, they'll thin the herd for us whenever the conservation department says we're not allowed to. And this is what makes me a little frustrated, is those regulations acknowledge that population density is the problem when it comes to CWD, right? I would say it's also the problem when it comes to however many, whatever I say, 3,000
Yeah.
car accidents with deer last year, right? Resulting in multiple deaths and stuff. Population density, like less dense population solves that, right? But they just tweak the smallest amounts of things with hunting season in order to actually address that problem. So they added a little more to rifle season this year, a little more. I can't remember what it was. I think they added was there a second youth season? I'm going to totally say this wrong. I feel like they did a little more rifle season this year. They did remove the points limitation. So if somebody's still listening that knows nothing about hunting, which would be remarkable at this point, yeah, you learned so much. The points limitation was something that the Department of Conservation was doing, which was that you weren't allowed during like regular deer season, you weren't allowed to shoot a deer that had less than 4 points on one side. So a point, you can see this antler on the table. This is not the greatest example actually, but for a white-tailed deer, they're the little spikes that come off of the antlers. Generally, there's various ways of measuring those, but those are points. You couldn't shoot a deer that had less than 4 points on one side. So it could have 4 points on one side and 2 on the other. You could shoot that one. But if it was like 2 and 2, you weren't allowed to shoot it. They did that because they were trying to make bigger bucks in Missouri. Clearly, that's what they were doing because they know that hunting tourism is a thing. Okay, great. I'm like, yeah, but Iowa is to our north, and Iowa bucks will always be bigger than Missouri bucks. Just always. I saw a picture of one the other day. I'm like, that buck will never exist in maybe northern Missouri, but the majority of Missouri is never having a buck that looks like this picture. So it's 8,000 point insane thing. And so that was the reason they had that points limitation. And then they got rid of that this year actually, because they were going, we might just need to kill more deer and not worry about the points because we need to thin this herd. So it's funny because they are acknowledging that, but I think it's always, they make these like small adjustments. When I grew up in South Texas, I felt like it was always deer season in South Texas. I think deer season started in September and ran through January at least. I may be exaggerating that. That's how it felt, at least to me. It was forever. And rifle season, you get you a tag, whatever. It was no big deal. And I was shocked when I moved to Missouri in 2010. And it was like, wait, rifle season is 2 weekends with the week in between? That's it? Are you kidding me? There's an antlerless season. I don't want to shoot an antlerless. Like,
you're right. It's not what
I
I'm
might
here
for meat, but no, come on, just open it up, man. There's an antlerless season later where you could go a week. This is crazy. So you give me like 2 weeks basically of the year to take my rifle out into the woods. And I'm not a very good hunter anyway, so I'm already handicapped in this regard. I'm not very good at it, so it's a struggle. And I have 2 weeks to do it. And if those happen to be a week, and then half the time it's like Thanksgiving is involved. So when we travel for Thanksgiving, it drives me crazy, man. I'm stirring myself up on this topic. But it seems nuts that they would so much clamp down on just wide open hunting season. Like, I know that archery season does actually start is it late September?
Yeah, September 15th is usually.
And it runs through January, is it
15th?
Yeah,
right. That's usually what it is.
And then it's not archery season when it's rifle season. Isn't that the case? Or you can do it when it's rifle season. I forget.
You just have to tag it as a rifle.
Oh, okay.
As a rifle kill.
Yeah. So archery hunters can go anytime they want. And listen, I love archery hunters. I got a lot of respect for that. And people go, we could get you a crossbow. And I'm like, I would love to have a crossbow. But also, I have a rifle. Yeah. Let me just shoot the deer when I have time to shoot the stinking deer. Yeah. And also, like you were saying, youth season is at a good time. As we're recording this on November 6th, youth season, there's multiple youth rifle seasons, but the early one, right? It was the early one, was last weekend. Yep. And that was a pretty good time because the deer they're moving. Like the rut is happening, my understanding. And they're moving a lot. It was a good time to see a deer if you were out. And I think probably lots of kids got a great shot at a deer. I heard a terrible story from a friend who he has some land that he and his buddy hunt, and they've been watching on camera this one buck that was like, this is the big boy. And his buddy let his daughter shoot it during youth weekend, and she like butt shot it, and it ran off. And he was like, dude, no, you did not let her shoot that deer. And he was like, yeah, whatever. Anyways, with that story. But that was youth season, and it's actually in some ways better placed, even it's only a weekend, so you don't have that much time, than the regular rifle season, which is coming up in, 2 weeks from now? Basically?
Yeah, the next weekend.
Yeah, a week and some change from now is when it opens, and then You miss this really good chunk of the rut. And it's like, why would you do that? Why would you not have that just wide open to all hunters when it's literally the best time of year to go hunting?
Yep. I like to tell people November 5th is like a calendar marked day every year that I just love. That first week in November, late weeks of October, first week in November is when you really start seeing those big bucks. Because sometimes those mature bucks seem to be hitting a little bit later than those young bucks. You'll see those spikes and stuff.
I see them on camera. Yeah, the little guys are on the camera first, and then later the big boy.
Yep, that's when he finally gets dumb enough to mess up. Those big bucks are big for a reason, and you only see them so many times. But that's real. If I was someone who just rifle hunted, I'd be pretty bummed out because you are missing that first week in November where you're seeing a lot of. By the end of rifle hunting, your deer, they're worn out. They're not really at the peak of their rut anymore. They're not chasing tail as much as what. It's
well, no offense to the kids. I love kids having a good experience, but the kids got all the good ones. They're not always there. Sometimes they shot them in the butt and they ran off and they died in a creek, or maybe you see them again and they're limping. That would be okay. But it drives me crazy. I don't really know how you change that, but man, it is super frustrating because I think it results in A, not as great of an experience for just all hunters broadly, and B, overpopulation density. They are basically acknowledging we have by loosening restrictions on stuff, the points restriction and whatever, but again, they just turn the dial like just the smallest amount. And I'm like, guys, let the hunters hunt.
I'd love to see the kills last year, but from my understanding, I like to talk to the butcher shops and stuff around just to pick their brain on what they're seeing coming in. And it sounded like the numbers were down quite a bit from the kills last year, the harvest last year. And we will...
You think we had a little bit of a late rut this year? I know cold weather triggers that sometimes, and it's not been super cold until now-ish, but I don't know. What do you? Has it been more or less on track? We're at November 6th.
It seems to be pretty on track from what I'm seeing this year. If not, maybe even a little bit earlier, just simply because we did have a few nights that we were seeing the temperatures come down, which, like you said, it's a great indication because you got to think these animals don't have a watch on their wrist. They go off of the weather and stuff and the pressure systems coming through.
They look at the trees. The pretty colors on the trees.
That's what I would do. But you're exactly right. You do have to gauge the different. You can't predict the weather, but they do go off the weather. It's a really good tall tale for it.
Yeah. Why do we have smaller bucks around here, do you think? Versus, again, Iowa, my South Texas deer were pretty nice down there. Why are they smaller here?
Man, all they have to eat is rocks here. Rocks and pebbles, I swear. It's so funny. When I guided out in Clinton, Missouri, that area there, just western of Missouri, you get a lot of your Kansas-style bucks where you've got crop, you got bean fields, you got cornfields, you got so much food for them to eat. Here in Missouri, we've got Lake of the Ozarks, we got lake water and rocks to eat, essentially, and mountains to climb.
Acorns? They got acorns.
Yeah, they got some acorns.
Nibble on some acorns.
Yeah. And you always got that neighbor that always feeds the whole herd. You drive by, the whole herd will be chilling there. But yeah, that's a big problem right now. There's just nothing to eat here. I see it same with turkeys. These mountains, we call them mountains here in Missouri. They have to walk so much when this rut and the heat does happen that they lose so much weight. By the end of the rut, you'll see them not eat so much and just be so caught on chasing tail that they don't eat as much and they're just burning so many calories.
Does that affect the size of the racks too, the antlers? The nutrition affects that too, right?
Absolutely, it does.
Yeah, so I guess that's why your Iowa bucks, your corn-fed bucks are just monstrosities.
They're like a moose. You could definitely...
They're out there eating Iowa corn all the time.
Yeah, their does are 150 to 200 pounds. Like, my goodness, here, you're lucky to get 100, it seems like. You're just skin and bones. But yeah, it's a big tail around here. If you can get crop put out, that's huge. That is very...
Is it worth it to have a little food plot or something, or are you just kind of, I don't know, have you done that? Or
yeah, I have, and my brother actually manages property for food plots and stuff like that, and gets real deep into the science behind it. But a good person to watch is Dr. Grant Woods. He's actually down in the Branson, Missouri area with Growing Deer TV. They've got a YouTube channel, and they're really big on just how do you plant stuff in this type of environment, and it's very beneficial for for growth, and also just knowing your deer population. Each farm's different, of course, but your buck to doe ratio, you really have to watch it because there's a lot of misinterpretation on how many does you need out there. A lot of people think the more does the better, but it's actually opposite. In my perspective, is I really like to keep that ratio down, and that's why it's so beneficial.
What would be the logic behind that?
It just seems the buck competition seems to really drive if you have that more competition with the bucks.
Scarcity with the does.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
What's something that like Missouri hunters, or I'll even say like Lake of the Ozarks, Central Missouri hunters, this is just an off the cuff question, but like that maybe they should be thinking about, or that you see a lot of people making a mistake on, or that people ought to learn more about, or advice you would give like a Central Missouri?
Yeah, Central Missouri. It is funny because in different areas that I've hunted in different areas of the country and really the world that I've hunted, everyone hunts different. Everyone. I mean, them Georgia boys down south, I'll hunt with them and it's just a circus. You're just running and it's crazy. Here in Missouri, we like to be a little old timer. It seems like just sit in a stand, wait it out. My biggest advice is not to overpressure tree stands. If you're hunting at the same tree stand, these bucks are smart. These big bucks are smart. You may see the same spike, and if that's the game you're going for, that's totally fine. But don't overpressure your tree stand and watch the wind. Those deer can smell. They're really good at smelling, obviously, and also know how to call in a deer. That's something in high school, I wasn't real good at. I just occasional rattle and stuff, but the grunt and the wheeze, I really like doing the wheeze where it sounds, it's not if you ever heard a doe get scared or smell you. It's not that. It's like a buck wheeze, as if he's exhausted and blowing out of his snout.
Do you do that manually, or do you have a call or something?
I do that manually, just acting like a very exhausted deer is probably the best way to explain it. But if you get that wheeze, it's almost a challenge from the way my perspective. It's almost a challenge to another buck. I had a buddy yesterday, and he told me, man, he was 400 yards away. And just doing that rattle sequence a little bit, but mostly that grunt and that wheeze really pulled him in, quartered him from 400 to 50 yards. It's incredible how quick they can change.
So give me some advice on that, because I have some antlers for rattling. I'm a novice at this. I've done it a little, but I'm not great at it. Man, I've heard people say you just soak the antlers in water so they sound more realistic. And I've heard other people go, it doesn't matter. You can bang some sticks together. So I don't know about that.
Yeah.
And then I have a grunt call. I forget what brand it is, but it seems like it's a pretty good one. But even on it, you can adjust it to sound like a mature buck, or there's like a little adjustment on the reed kind of thing where you can sound like a really huge buck or a younger buck, or even there's a doe bleat element to it. I don't really know what I'm doing with those, honestly, and I never do the wheezing thing. And so what's a good like starter sequence or way to think about that? Because then I'm like, sometimes I'll just blow the mature buck one, and I'm like, I don't know, maybe that challenges them, maybe that scares them off. I have no idea. I'm literally act like I know nothing about this. What would be a good kind of like first plan if you have those tools in place to try to effectively call in something?
Yeah, and to add to that, doe urine is a big thing I've been using recently. Just doing a mock scrape is what we call it. They like to essentially use their urine to track each other, and I like to do that just with my bow 30 yards off the stand.
You think it tells the difference between doe urine and human urine? If you're just like in the deer stand.
That is the tall tale. If you ask someone at a bar or something, like you could really get a guy rallied up if you...
Because we got a mutual friend who he just takes a leak over in the scrape he made. And I was like, man, I thought you weren't supposed to do that. But I don't know.
And I think I believe him. From my experience, I've tried both ways. I don't think they care. I think they get so rallied up that they just know that is the intention of that urine.
That's great.
And if you've ever smelled doe urine, you wish you didn't, or wish you didn't get it on yourself.
Yeah, okay.
So if you ask certain people, they're gonna tell you. But from my experience, I don't think they care. I really don't. On the mock scrapes, I've seen people pee on the mock scrapes and just use that as doe urine, and it doesn't scare them off. And I'm sure it depends on where you're at too. If they're
so make a mock scrape, doe urine, or just pee right next to it if you believe that's the same thing, and then with antlers, grunts, and whatever else, what's some good advice to a novice?
Yeah, absolutely. Don't over rattle. You're going to be in your prime time. If you're sitting in a tree stand in the afternoon, you're not seeing anything. Wait until probably 30 minutes before dark. Those big bucks, they hide in the dark. That's when they're really good at. That's when you see a lot of your big bucks be shot right at dark, right at shooting light. So they like to hide in the dark. So get them out of those woods, get them moving a little bit early. By doing that, you're going to be adding competition. So your rattle and your just soft grunt calls. Just go 1, 2, 3 soft, and just do that every now and every. Heck, it could be every 10 minutes. Of course, I'm probably going to make someone mad out there. I know
they're not on the show. You are.
Yeah,
exactly.
So I like to experiment with it. Your whole goal is to create competition. For someone who likes to duck hunt or bear hunt or even turkey hunt, it's so much different because it seems a lot slower than that. You have to have a lot more patience with deer hunting because you're not truly calling them in unless you're just trying to be lucky, hoping that buck's on the ridge and just hears you. And
so don't rattle until 30 minutes, till the big guys would come out anyways. Space, do you do a rattle, grunt, rattle sequence, or does it matter? Again, like how you said, space out the grunts, even a pretty good window. So that's what I mean. I probably do it way too much when I've tried to.
And I don't think you're going to.
I get impatient sometimes. Yeah. I'm like, dadgummit, I'm calling in one of these deer. If it's the last thing I do, I'm like,
exactly
doing it all wrong. But yeah.
I don't, honestly, me personally, I don't think you can overdo it. I think you can just, you do your thing. And dude, I've seen 10 points fight with 4 points. I don't think they care how big you are. They just know you're in their territory, and they're basically following doe urine to smell what does are in heat, because they can tell which does are in heat. And if you're in their way, they're not going to like that. So you're just creating that competition. If people hunt from a blind, I've seen rattles, and then you just take the leaves and stuff and make it sound like there's a
moving around fighting,
and it works.
I used to pretty good fight on my game cam in my spot that I'm hunting the other day. There's a nice little battle.
Yeah. So it's entertaining. I love watching it.
Okay, what's your assessment of my spot? You've been up there.
Yep.
What do you think about it? Nobody else knows where it is. I'm not telling anybody.
Yeah, you can't drop the pin or anything.
But yeah.
It's great. So his spot, to describe it, and I'm an avid Onyx hunt user of the app, and it's a great spot because you've got a lot of woods. There's a lot of people that obviously don't hunt around there because you can tell there's just a lot of woods and just not a lot of movement or pressure. And then there's probably what you say, like a 5-acre field.
If it might be 2.5. Yeah.
Perfect. That's what I love, because those deer are relying on that as a food source, and it looked like you had a little bit of a food plot.
Yeah, we put a little food plot in. We plowed it up for the first time, which was plowing that for the first time was interesting.
Yeah.
I just have a little Ford 8-in tractor, old tractor, and found some boulders and roots out there.
Oh,
but, yeah, we plowed that up and put out some general food plot kind of stuff. So I don't know if that's been helpful or not, but
it was perfect. And what I did was I just assessed the outside of that field, seeing what kind of scrapes were put by those deer. It seems like that's what they want, just going around. They like to mark their territory, and there were 2 scrapes that we really pinned, and I put on Onyx, I pinned, here's the scrapes. Here's probably going to be our great bow stand because it's in the corner where it's going to be close proximity. We found a few good trees would be good for rifle hunting because you're going to be a little bit further, but it's a really good, and that is a great place for when they're bedding, they feel safe, and when they can come out and play. That's usually where you're going to catch them, is right there. Great shooting alley.
Nice.
It's a good setup.
All right, that's good. I appreciate that assessment.
Yeah.
Buttering me out there, but
yeah,
what I've noticed, and that's what you were saying, is that, man, it is. So shooting time is up until 30 minutes after sunset. So I always look, okay, what time is sunset tonight? And try to follow the rules on that. And man, they show up 25 minutes after sunset.
Yeah.
And you're like, I can still legally shoot one. I'm not sure I can see it well enough to safely shoot it, but I'm pretty sure that's a big boy. Tell me how many times that has happened up there where it is in that. It's after the sun is actually down.
Yeah.
In that 30-minute window is what I feel like when I've most consistently seen them come out. So that requires some patience. Yeah. And showing up early enough to where, because I've shown up there where it was like an hour before sunset. Well, they were already approaching.
Yeah.
That scared them off. I'm so mad at myself.
Yeah. And deer hunting was actually, I don't know, I want to say it was almost my least favorite to guide, because we would do 12-hour sits. We would get there an hour before the light and be there an hour after. And wow, was it a long day. You'd pack lunches, and so you'd see all the movement and stuff. But There's some people that are a lot more patient than I am, and I like to move around. I have slight ADHD, just bouncing off the walls, but yeah, I do enjoy deer.
Yeah. All right. Last thing, we'll do a little show and tell
Yeah, let's do
today.
it.
All right. So
Yep.
this is for the audio folks. You have to go check us out on Facebook or something and see. So you brought some exhibits for us. Tell me what we got on the
Yes.
table here.
So right here on the table, we've got a fallow. It's a shed of a fallow that I found out in New Zealand.
Okay.
New Zealand's interesting. A lot of their animals were brought in from essentially the United States.
Oh, really?
The red stag's not native there, which is what I initially went there to hunt for, was a red stag brought in from the United States for recreational use. Just another one of those examples. So I've got the fallow. You want me to run over there and grab
Yeah,
that?
grab them.
Okay. So I'll
Put
just
that boy on the table there.
maybe
Yeah,
right
there you
there.
go.
There we go. So that is a South Pacific mountain goat.
South Pacific. So this is New Zealand again.
This is New
Yeah.
Zealand. So this is on the South Island of New Zealand, which is where the fallows were mostly at. There were still some on the North Island, but on the South Island, I loved the fallows were funny because you'll sit up on a big mountainside and it's just sounds like a bunch of frogs. That's how it's like a louder grunt. But yeah, they were really cool. And what's cool about these is
Mountain goat. You shot that.
I shot
Okay.
this one with a gun and run in packs, but their antlers are sleeves. So it's a
Wild.
mixture of blood and hair that goes
Weird.
up, and each year it just keeps building and getting longer. And they were really cool. They were like blue goats, gray goats, black goats,
Really?
white goats. They're so cool. So fun to hunt. So that's the South Pacific mountain goat.
Okay.
And then I don't know how I'm gonna do this, but
Yeah. We'll just kind of find a way.
Yeah.
We're just kind of hold
yeah,
him back here.
There we go.
Yeah, hold him right back here. We'll
There
just
you go.
display him.
So this is the red stag. This is a free range red stag, so it's natural. No high fins, no nothing like that, because over there it's recreational. A lot of people like
I
to.
love the dark antler and then the tips are white. That's
Yeah,
it's
beautiful animals, and we hunted them. You can hunt them year round there, actually, in New Zealand, and no tags. Craziest thing.
Amazing.
There's been other states in the United States that were harder to hunt animals than.
Yeah, we've been talking about one the whole time.
Yeah, exactly. You just show up with a gun and you shoot animals. It's fun in New Zealand.
Crazy. That's beautiful.
But yeah, they're beautiful creatures. They're everywhere out there. But this is the red stag.
Okay, nice. Yeah, you want to set him to the side.
Yep.
All right, and then I brought one for show and tell. I told you I was going to kind of not let you see it because this is like that stuff's cool, but this is the coolest thing I've ever come across. So
I'm scared.
I got it back here. I got to cover up.
Should I look or should I?
Oh yeah, I don't care.
Okay.
You can look. It's still nasty. It still has some hair on it, but check this out.
No way. Did they die like that?
Yes, dude. I found these just below where I hunt in the creek bed. Complete skeletons attached to each.
No, I'm gonna have to
And they
hunt at
died
your
like
farm
this.
more
I've
often.
never seen one live this big. These are the two biggest sets of antlers I've ever seen on my property.
No kidding.
Isn't that
That is
crazy?
so crazy.
So for our listeners, this is two buck skulls locked together in death battle. I am not going to try to get them unconnected,
Yeah.
but I don't think I could because the way it's very weird. Like one obviously came up behind the other one or something and kind of came in because they're looking the same direction.
That is incredible.
One of the coolest things I've ever found in the woods. No, the coolest thing I've ever found in the woods in my life. And I'm gonna mount it or something.
Yeah.
But like these brown, they're
They're
huge.
Big animals.
For an Ozarks buck, these are enormous. Because this guy is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, almost 6 on that side. 1, 2, 3, 4. You count that one?
Yeah, you can.
I'm gonna count it.
Yeah, I would
5,
count
6.
it.
So he's 11, right? With some business going on down here.
He's got some mass, and they're both
Yeah, and then the other guy, he's just an 8-pointer, but I think he's one of the biggest 8-pointers I've ever seen.
crazy.
At my place. Awesome.
So awesome.
Crazy. And we were just hiking around with some friends, and I was like, is that an antler down there? And then I walked closer and was like, oh my gosh. 2 complete skeletons laying there and with their heads locked together.
That's
Died.
incredible.
Yeah, I don't know, whatever. Maybe one of them broke the other one's neck, or who knows. But died down there in the creek after the most epic battle
What a way to go out.
Yeah, it's a terrible
Nature's
way to go,
rough,
actually,
man.
dude.
Nature is
Terrible.
rough.
Anyways, I wanted to show you that because I thought
That is
this
so
is the coolest.
cool.
And their genetics are out there.
They are.
I found this, it was like 4 years ago or something. But
That's a big thing. Watching the genetics, that's a great example of it. That is so cool.
yeah, isn't that cool?
I'll tell you, the weirdest buck I've seen guiding was actually last year, mid-November. It's a guy who we guided in the bow season, early bow season, and he came back for rifle season, but was hunting with his bow. And he goes out and he shoots and he calls me. It's at night. I'm like, hey, you okay? He goes, dude, I shot one, but something's up with it. And I'm like, oh, it's like a skinwalker or something. Like, I'm gonna go out there and die. And so I had to actually go home. I had to leave that night. And my buddy who runs the outfit, it's Whitetail Savage Outfitters out in western Missouri. He calls me that night and he sends me a picture. And it was a 24-point, 172-inch buck. But that's awesome. But the craziest part is it still had velvet. And this was mid-November.
Oh.
And so what we'll see with that is the first things we look at is if it's a doe, because you'll see a lot of does with a genetic mutation that allows them to have antlers and for them to stay velvet, which is crazy on top of
But
each
it was
other.
not a doe?
It was not a doe. And another thing we look at is if it was injured, if there's any signs of broken legs or anything like that, sometimes that can cause a genetic mutation. And nothing. No injuries at all. I still can't explain it. I'd like to send it in to someone if anyone's
Was it
listening.
fully velvet or just had some
Fully velvet. And it was a hard velvet too. So it wasn't like a soft velvet. Sometimes
Crazy.
if it's velvet, it'll still be soft. Completely hardened, and I have pictures of it. It's craziest deer I've ever seen in Missouri, and I still can't explain it. So if anyone
he
has
mounted it, obviously. Like,
he mounted it. Yeah, it was
gosh,
awesome.
that is wild.
With a bow too.
That was around here? Where was that?
That was in Clinton, Missouri. So
Okay.
just due west of here, which is where the outfit is for whitetail hunting. And it was crazy. I couldn't believe it. It was a cool story.
Interesting. We've gone longer than I promised you we would, but I've enjoyed the conversation.
That's what happens every time we talk about hunting.
Yeah, it's worth it. It's worth it. Where do you want to plug anybody or promote anything before we start to sign off?
Yeah, if we're talking about hunting whitetail savage, Ty Eubanks, I worked with him and such a great outfit. And that's if you want to do any whitetail or turkey, or we've done spoonbill guides, turkey,
Nice.
morel, fishing, whitetail, of course, that's our bread and butter. And then Mountain Savage, that's out in Idaho. If you want to do any Idaho hunting, awesome. We've gone mountain lion hunting, bear hunting. He does elk hunting. There's a lot of really cool stuff out there. If you want to go snowmobile riding too, Idaho's probably the most beautiful state I've personally been to. I loved out there. So those would be my two plugs.
Okay,
for sure.
Cool. Thanks for coming on, man.
Thanks for
I
having
appreciate
me.
it. This has been fun.
It's been awesome.
Yeah, I know. Hunting again after this hunting season. We
Yeah.
can talk about successes, failures, and everything else.
Probably more failures than anything.
Oh, that's definitely me,
Yeah.
for sure. So, listen, thank you everybody for tuning in. If you stuck around to the end, I know this was a long episode. Thanks for tuning in. I hope you're enjoying the podcast. If you are, would you do us a favor and share this with friends? Click the share button, follow us on Facebook. Obviously, follow Lake Expo on Facebook too, and we share all this stuff to Lake Expo. But follow Take on the Lake on Facebook. We post our full episodes video there. You can also find the audio of this podcast in pretty much all the main audio podcast places that you get your podcasts. So follow us there. We try to do about an episode a week, and appreciate everybody who supports the show, has given us some great feedback, awesome guests that come on. And we just love telling stories of the Lake of the Ozark and talking to really cool people at Lake of the Ozarks. If you ever have an idea for a guest, hit me up. Send me a message through our Facebook page, and always appreciate good ideas. For now, that has been our Take on the Lake. Stay anchored, stay curious, and we'll see you next time.